What's up, everybody? It is Amrinder Singh. And before I start the lesson, I want to let you know that I started a new podcast. The podcast name is the Amrinder Singh Podcast. And this podcast is all in Punjabi. It's basically for the Punjabi people. But you can also get the benefit from this podcast because you need to listen Punjabi if you want to improve your listening skill, right? So this is a great way to practice of your listening you can do on this podcast. In this podcast, I'm not speaking so fast, like totally colloquial way. I'm gonna to speak like semi-formal, which means I would be speaking slower and more clear. So it's easier for you to understand compared to a Punjabi video or audio and bunch of people talking. This will be a little hard because they're speaking like so fast. But anyway, and you can also share this podcast with your Punjabi friends or Punjabi relatives or whatever. Basically, with those people you think their English is not that good enough. Because what I'm gonna talk about in this podcast, basically that's things mostly I learned through English, or basically I'm currently learning, and I'm going to discuss those things which almost doesn't exist in Punjabi language. So I want to provide that kind of information to Punjabi people. All right. Now let's kick this thing off. Today we're going to talk about how to improve your vocabulary by writing, reading, listening, and speaking. So it depends what kind of person you are. Are you more likely to read, listen, or talking to people or writing? It depends on you. So you can pick whatever you like, or you can use all four. It depends on you. But before I tell you that how you can use these methods, I think first I'm gonna tell you what you don't need to do. All right, or you shouldn't do in that way. So what you shouldn't do is like basically don't write a list of words and try to memorize them. It's not gonna work unless you use them in sentences. Like if you make a list and you're using them in sentences, right, in context, then that's effective. But just memorizing words of list, this is not useful, right? You're never gonna like succeed in that way. Even if you learn, yeah, once you're gonna learn these words. If you don't use them, you're gonna forget them. That's how our brain works. All right. You can't remember the words if you are not gonna use them in like a meaningful context. All right. So anyway, now we're gonna talk about these four methods. I will also tell you which one is my favorite one. So let's start with first one, the writing. How you can improve your vocabulary by writing. Well, first of all, it depends. Like some people, if you think you're really beginner, uh, you can use like a flashcard. Make a flashcard or maybe a piece of paper and write some words, Punjabi words you learn, and put it on the wall, something like that, so you can see them again and again, and you don't forget, right? Another thing, it's not gonna be much effective unless you gonna use them in sentences, right? Then try to use those words sentences every day, maybe every other day. It depends how you want to use. You can also write a sentence if you want on a paper, a notebook, or you can also just use in your head, right? Just use in your head how to make sentences with these words. You can use your writing if you like to write that way, right? If you're a writing person, you should use these words uh, into a context, right? So I think most of you guys are not going to be in writing, I think, because for me it's so boring. It's boring method and I don't use that. But like if some of you guys want to use it, you can use that way. Yeah, there are also a lot of people who use that way. So second method is reading. I think this is more little, I think, interesting. Like if you're interested in something, right? Maybe it could, you don't need to go like a difficult, maybe a simple, just read. So when you're reading, like even you are not understanding the whole thing, but if you think you are following the context, right? You just know what's happening in reading. What are you reading? Probably you're not like you don't know everything what's written in the book, right? So this method is basically for those people who are kind of intermediate level, who are not beginner, who can read a little bit. So when you are doing that, you don't need to look every single word on the dictionary or search on the internet. So what you need to do is when you're just reading, and if you see some words which are like repeating again and again, right? When you want to read a book, whatever, or article, whatever you like to read, there would be some words which are more related to that topic, and they're gonna repeat it in the book or in the paper, whatever you're reading, like frequently, right? When you're reading them frequently, it's already gonna like get stuck in your head, right? Because you're reading them again and again, and even you don't know what is the meaning of those words. At that time, you need to look at on the dictionary or search on the internet. What does it mean, right? So it's already gonna stuck in your head. The thing is, you are reading them in the context, but you're not sure like how they are being used. When you look at the dictionary, then your like a brain clicks, oh, that's how these words are using, and you will also use them in the context while you're reading, right? You would know like what's happening in the book, and it makes your interest in that book, whatever you are reading. And now you know like what is the meaning of these words. Maybe because there are a lot of words they use differently in the context. Maybe one context it could mean different, another context it could mean different, right? So when you use them, when you're reading them, so it's very good, I think, practice. And this thing is gonna stuck in your head. It's very powerful. It's very good for those people who like to read. All right. But like if you are that person who don't like to read, then you can use the next methods. Basically, these methods are like listening and speaking, which I'm gonna talk about later. So anyway, when you wanna read something, just try to pick something you feel like you're more interested in that thing. Don't pick too difficult. Like don't pick too difficult because you are not gonna like following it, really following the context, and you will get bored and you're gonna quit it. And even you don't follow the context, right? Pick something like if you can understand like a 60, 70%, even 80%. This is gonna be like a little bit more fun, and it's gonna be challenging for you. So that's how you're gonna improve. Like if you're reading something which is just 100%, you know what's going to happen, it's not gonna improve like like your Punjabi because you already know that, right? So you need to learn or read something you know like around like 80%, right, or 70%, something like that. So which can keep you like interested to in that topic you're reading. You also learn something new, all right? So anyway, third method is listening. This is also one of my favorite. I use this method a lot, right? So so in this method, what you're gonna do is you're gonna pick something to listen you are interested in. Probably it's gonna be difficult for some of you guys if you don't know or you don't find like you can say contact, right? I mean, yeah, but you can find the content on like internet, maybe podcasts, or there are a lot of YouTube videos you can or Facebook video and people just talking. Like, yeah, so when you're listening, right, it's more easier way. Like it's basically I can say this is do nothing, right? Basically you don't need to do anything. Basically it didn't mean like you are not gonna do anything. It means you are not like putting much effort. You're just enjoying. Like you are not trying to like do so hard. Like you like something, you have interest in something, and you just wanna listen it and do nothing. And you are listening it, and you are following some kind of you're understanding what's going on in that conversation. Probably you don't understand everything what's going on in that conversation. So you are gonna do the same thing you did in while you were reading. So what you're gonna do is there will be some words, all right, which is going to be repeated again and again in the conversation, and those words you already gonna remember them, right? And there will be some words you would imagine, like if you have like a intermediate level, and there will be some words, believe me, like you don't need to even search for them. You just learn through the context. It happens with me a lot when I'm still learning English, right? I don't learn just basically. I'm not putting any effort now. Like I'm not studying to English. What I'm doing, I'm just listen those things I like, right? When I'm listening, sometimes there are some words, all right? Like I don't go on dictionary. So there's some words I don't know. Basically, what I'm doing, if there will be I think couple of words when I listen something I don't know, I don't check them, and even I don't notice there's some words I don't know. So how I notice, like when I'm listening to something, if there is a words, it just repeat it again and again, again and again. Not only one day, maybe if I'm listening to something that same kind of topic is repeated continually in 2 3 days, and it's just already bothering me, all right? It's already bothering me. What the fuck does it mean? That time I look at on the dictionary. Sometimes maybe one word is using differently, and I learned this word through the context, all right? I learned this word through the context, and maybe in other contexts it's used differently, and I'm confused, this is used this way, how this is used this way. That time I check on the dictionary, all right? That's how I learn vocabulary. I think this method is not for maybe beginner, because if you're a beginner, you need to put some kind of effort, right? So when you're a beginner, you can also use this one. Basically, you need to listen some kind of really basic thing, right? And basic thing, and you also need to listen basically on the purpose because you want to improve your vocabulary. Like right now, if somebody is advanced level, they don't listen because they want to improve something. They just listen because they're enjoying it, and that in that process they'll improve their vocabulary. So yeah, so you can listen it anywhere. The good thing about this method is, like, if you're driving, if you're cooking something, whatever you're doing, you can listen that time. And when you're listening, there will be a word, right? You don't need to even write it like a. Some people, what they do when they listen something, they write it down, right? And some people complain, oh, I was driving, that's why I couldn't write it right. You don't need to do it, because when the word is repeating again and again, it's already gonna stuck in your head. You already know the words. What are you gonna look for in the dictionary? All right. When you learn that word, then that time you need to look at on the dictionary. So this method, if you wanna do this method, you need to listen every day. Honestly, every day, whatever you pick. Like if you 30 minutes, I think everybody can find 30 minutes. All right. Even if you can use hour, this is more effective, but it also depends. Like if you listen something for hour, like if you are interested for whole hour, you will learn more. If you are not interested, you are not gonna learn much. But it didn't mean if you listen something an hour and you are not much interested in that, it didn't mean you learn nothing. You actually learn something, even it feels like you didn't learn anything, but your ears are getting trained, like according to that language, right? The expressions of that language. So anyway, the final method is learn vocabulary while speaking. This is also one of my favorite, but the thing with this is a little bit more difficult to do because you need to find somebody to talk, or you can also talk with yourself alone. But this method, you can do much. Personally, when I was learning English, I was doing almost every day. I was not doing much. Like I was only speaking maybe 10 minutes, something like that. On the other side, listening, I was listening more, maybe 2-3 hours a day. All right. So yeah, this method is also really effective. Like if you can communicate with people, this is more effective. All right. This is the best thing I think. If you are gonna communicate, you're gonna talk to the people with Punjabi. Don't shy. Like if you think your Punjabi is bad or whatever, don't shy. Just try to speak. If you can have some conversation, it's most effective method. Um, because when somebody gonna say something to you when you have having a conversation and you don't understand that time, like don't say just whatever. Ask them, okay, what does it mean, right? When you're gonna ask them, they're gonna tell you, okay, this means that, all right, and you will learn something. Even I don't think you're gonna learn it in the first time. You're gonna forget it. You're gonna forget this word, whatever you the person like told you the word. But like if you are doing this thing repeatedly, you maybe you have a conversation with the one person and you don't know a word, whatever, what does it mean? Oh, or the meaning of that sentence that person told you, and you learn, and then you forgot. Maybe you have a conversation with other person, and the same thing you ask that person because you forgot that word, and he's gonna tell you what does it mean. When you're gonna have a repetitions, you're gonna learn. All right, this is the most effective. Like if you even can't find a person, you can also talk to yourself. All right, when you are taking a shower or cooking something, just try to make some sentences. All right, like maybe if you already watched a movie, right, or clip, and you remember a sentence or a dialogue in that movie, you can use them while you're doing, like you're working in your yard, you're cooking something. That time you can do that one, and it's gonna also stuck in your head. So the thing is, it also helps you to make your fluency, because when you're gonna repeat the words or sentences, basically the sentences again and again, and your speed of speaking gonna improve, right? At the beginning, it's not gonna be fast. Basically, it's not fast. Basically, like it's normal speed of people when they talk. But for the beginner, a person who is a non-native, it seems like it's so fast, right? It's now fast. But anyway, like when you're gonna repeating the sentences, then you are gonna like a speed of your speaking. Even you notice in your basically the first language, if it is English or whatever, like even my first language is Punjabi. I also notice in both languages, even in English and Punjabi, the sentences I use every day. For example, in Punjabi, like if I just when I say ਕੀ ਕਰੀ ਜਾਨਾ ਤੂੰ ਕੀ ਕਰੀ ਜਾਨਾ ਉਰੇ ਆ ਜਾ, right? आज ਆਪਾਂ ਖੇਤ ਚਲੀਏ, something like that, right? So I say it faster, right? Same in English. If I want to say like, hey, what you doing, man? Let's go, right? So let's come to my home and enjoy, right? This kind of thing we say faster because we have more repetitions. Like, for example, if I'm like explaining something, let's say I'm explaining something to my friend about a nutrition something, right? I don't use that kind of vocabulary or that kind of sentence every single day. I can't speak it faster, right? Even in Punjabi, I have to little bit slow down to think about these words, right? To make it more understandable. But the other normal things, when we just talk repeatedly, because these sentences we just talk every day, right? That time we don't need to think, we just say it. So it's faster. For non-native speaker, basically, who are like a pre-intermediate or a beginner, they say it slowly because they don't have enough practice, all right? And the people who have an advanced level or native, they say it faster because they have more repetitions. Just look at those native speakers. If they use those words, not words like those sentences, they don't like they don't speak every day. They also speak a little bit slower. All right. So basically, you need to practice it again and again. So you're gonna improve your with the repetitions. So So the thing with speaking is basically when you're gonna learn a vocabulary, right? Basically the same thing when you're gonna listen again and again. So you have to use them. So in this way, you will also improve your pronunciation. All right. Because other three methods is really good to improve your vocabulary, but it's not gonna improve your pronunciation. All right. For your pronunciation, you have to speak. All right. You have to first listen how it sounds, then you have to speak. When you're gonna speak, probably somebody is gonna tell you, okay, this is not how you pronounce this word. You have to pronounce this way. All right. That time you know you are making the mistake and you need to correct yourself. All right. This is how you improve vocabulary. I think it's a more fun way. So my favorite method of 3 and 4, right? So mostly I used 3 because I didn't have much opportunity to using 4. Yeah, I used 4 as well. I talked to the people and I also talked to just myself to improve my English. But mostly I was using number 3, listening. All right. And another thing is you can't improve, you can't do better in fourth method. You can do it better in like a speaking until you listen more. You have to listen more to improve your speaking, right? You need more output, not output, more input, right? Input means you are absorbing the listening, right? That's input. That's how you're gonna produce more, right? If your input is less, you can't give output more, right? That's how it is. Even most of people, the native speaker, they have more listening skill. They can understand more than they produce in speaking. Because while you are speaking, you are not you can't think the perfect word all the time to use in conversation, but you can understand if somebody is using difficult words, whatever. You can understand if you're native speaker of that language. So the listening is always going to be a higher level than speaking, right? So that's why you need more input than output, right? So anyway, and then you let me know which method is your favorite one, right? So my favorite one is third and fourth, both. I can't pick one, right? But the thing is, I choose more in the third one because that's what I have more opportunity, right? So anyway, so if you think you are getting the value from this podcast and you want to support this podcast, you can support it through PayPal or Patreon. Links are in the description. Everything will be appreciated. If you are not able to support this podcast, then you can give it to 5 star if you're listening it on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Because if you give this podcast to 5 star, then Apple Podcast or Spotify recommend this podcast to the more people. So it would also help this podcast to grow more. At the end, if you want to learn about Punjabi pronouns, then check out my ebook. Link is in the description. So I hope you enjoyed the lesson and learned something new today. I'll be back with another lesson in another day.